Hello. This is the second installment on the United States Constitution, something that's being tragically abused, and if it continues to be abused, will result in the destruction of America. There's just absolutely no doubt about it. It is the only thing that, in fact, has given us the dignity of who we have been, and if it is extended into the future, of who we will be. Right now, we have many people who are talking about the Constitution being a living document. It sounds very noble. It sounds very impressive that the Constitution is actually living, allowing the wisdom of today, or perhaps, as you would see it, the wisdom of tomorrow, to dominate the discussions. In fact, the Constitution was created for just the opposite reason. The Constitution was created as a mechanism to ensure that the eccentricities of the future, to ensure that the expediencies of the future, to ensure that what I used before as a phrase, something called the tyranny of today, would not dominate the debate. If we look at the reverence that was given to the Constitution by our founding fathers and extended through most of American history, we can see it primarily within the oaths of office that was required and has been enhanced and is still required. If we look at the original oath created by the first Congress, it was simply, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States." It was seen as the inherent oath of office. It was seen as what you were and why you were there. It wasn't seen as some incidental commitment to the subsequent wisdom of the future or the whims of men. It was seen as the entire requirement of why you were there. Post the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln added to it, and by 1884 we have what is the current required oath of office for all federal employees, and to a large extent, it is exactly what the oath is that's taken by individual congressmen, senators, or the president, him or herself, as the case may be in the future. That oath is, and again, this is given to you because it's about the Constitution. It is only about the Constitution. "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I have take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God." It's incredible to believe that if this is the oath of office, that they will adhere to the Constitution and revere the Constitution, that in fact the words that are currently being said in the debate about the Constitution can possibly be said without those people, the elected officials, or anyone who's an official in the federal government, being in a state of failure to fulfill that oath of office. The Constitution is the entire defining element of it. If they are swearing to uphold, taking an oath to uphold something that is nothing, something that has no meaning, no binding authority, no limitations, no process by which the individual is protected from the whims of government, then what are they swearing to? What are they affirming? What are they suggesting will be the requirements imposed on them within their office? Apparently, their oath is essentially, I swear that I will, within my office, I will adhere to nothing except the whims that happen to come into my mind or happen to come into the mind of those people around me. It has no particular binding authority. The origins of this kind of malevolence towards the Constitution go back many years. We could perhaps have the most the strongest defining moment within the Lochner dissent by Oliver Wendell Holmes in 1905. Within that Lochner dissent, which has become a litmus test for almost every Supreme Court judge, the Constitution was seen as being empty. It had no advocacy. It in no way took a position in regard to the relationship of the individual to the federal government. It in no way established any commitment to individual rights that could not be violated in the future by some subsequent need that was seen by the legislatures. That the entire process was seen as nothing more than the legislative debate or the judicial activism. The Constitution was not a player; it was a platform. It was someplace in which you operate, but it had no particular restraining influence. And certainly we have seen that. We've seen that operationally. And you know that we can't know exactly what was in the minds of the Founding Fathers. We can't know exactly what their words meant, but we do know that if they said green, they didn't mean up. We do know if they said down, they didn't mean asparagus. We do know that they didn't mean the opposite of what they said. We do know if they said that they liked vegetables, we may not have known which vegetable, but we knew that they didn't want meat. So yes, there is some vagueness about the wording, about the actual intent. But that doesn't mean that essentially once you lose the specificity of meaning, that you can go in any direction that you want, which is exactly what's happened in the legislative body and within the Supreme Court. We even hear it suggested by members of Congress that essentially it is not their job to determine the constitutionality of a law or to even consider it, that that's in the hands of the Supreme Court. As if the Supreme Court is there just to give a check off, constitutional or not non-constitutional, to the actions of the Congress, who in their minds have no obligation to even consider the constitutionality of a law. The Lochner dissent, Holmes's Lochner dissent, is also a litmus test for members of the Supreme Court. Anyone who is being assessed by the Senate to go on the Supreme Court that suggests that there is an inherent advocacy in the Constitution that says that the individual must, under any circumstance, be protected from the whims of the federal government, that person has no chance of confirmation into the Supreme Court. That the Constitution is allowed to be a document in which the Supreme Court debates with the Congress, but it in no way can be the defining element of the nature of that debate or the answers to the debate that's going on. And so we have a Constitution that men and women swear to, and yet they then the next day make the argument that it means nothing. It is open to interpretation. You can have as I said in my last presentation, you can have the Commerce Clause cover every transaction. Obviously not the intent of the Founding Fathers. You can have the General Welfare Clause create any possibility the federal government decides. And if it intrudes on the individual, well, so be it. There is no inherent protection of the individual from the actions of the federal government. And so we have this debate, and you're wondering, I wonder, perhaps you do too, where are the defenders of the Constitution? Where are those people who suggest that, it may be difficult to understand exactly what the Founding Fathers meant, but within those words is all we are. Within those words is all that gives us definition. Within those words is all that gives us continuity and hope for a future. If those words are seen as useless, as empty, then we will, as a people, be useless and empty. I believe that almost everyone who swears allegiance to this Constitution, that essentially goes in an absolutely opposite direction, should be eligible for impeachment. I'm not trying to make some radical statement that we should go around impeaching anybody for any reason, but it seems rather screamingly obvious that if someone takes an oath, and their oath is essentially to defend the Constitution, and their whole action, their whole purpose is to dismiss the Constitution, by their own actions and their own failure to fulfill their oath, they should be removed from office. I don't know how to avoid that conclusion. The Constitution is who we are. To the degree we revere it, to that degree we will have a solid chance of being a significant people well into the future. To the degree we reject it, we will fail, as we are now. So I will talk to you again soon, and thank you for your time with these YouTubes. Thank you.